Welcome to this video on Kilkea Castle. This is Kilkea Castle in County Kildare. It's an old castle of the Fitzgeralds. I thought you might like to see this. It was originally built in 1180 by Hugh de Lacy, but after a short time went off, it came into the possession of the Fitzgerald family. Of course, the Fitzgeralds are obviously the great name in that part of Leinster. The Fitzgeralds are, as it stands now, the Dukes of Leinster, and it's the same family, obviously, that owned this. So it was extensively remodeled in about 1849, but it didn't change the look of the building all that much, as you can see from some of these pictures which predate 1849, and you can compare the image to the video. Anyway, this castle is of great significance for the Catholic faith in Ireland, although I don't think it's all that well known as such. But it was described, for example, in a biography of Father Slingsby, Slingsby, who was an English father who joined the Irish Jesuits and was considered a very saintly man. And a Latin life of him was written, I think, in the 1640s. And and as part of that, this Slingsby had been arrested as a Jesuit, and was out on bail in this castle, in Kilkea Castle, and it was described, I believe, in that biography in Latin as the headquarters, sort of the unofficial headquarters of the Catholic faith in Ireland in the 1630s, so 1620s to 1630s, that kind of period. So as such, then it's very interesting and significant. So anyway, that story begins. That story of Kilkea begins when a daughter of the Baron of Delvin married the Earl of Kildare. Obviously, that's Fitzgerald. And she became then the Countess of Kildare and lived a long time as a widow. And she, anyway, got as dowry this castle. And she installed there her relatives, actually, to be her first cousin, who was the head of the Jesuits in Ireland, Father Robert. And he became, and he went there and he set up the Jesuits there. So that's the significance of this castle in late 1620s, 1630s, and early 1640s. It's the head of the Jesuits in Ireland, and under the protection of this countess, who was very prominent, and even tried to set up a university in Dublin. Anyway, this Father Robert, the head of the Jesuits in Ireland, who was living here, had a fascinating career. He's supposed to have improved the Irish harp and been an expert mathematician and a poet in Latin. He was also very fluent in Irish. There's an Irish letter to him in the state papers, and fluent in English. There's an English letter of him, existing letter to his brother, who was in jail in Dublin Castle, another Jesuit. Anyway, one of the most significant stories. Anyway, it stated that this Father Robert, the head of the Jesuits in Ireland, he actually wrote a history of those times. And apparently, because he feared it would be attacked and discovered, he buried it, presumably in Kilkea, here, somewhere in the grounds of this castle. He apparently buried it and couldn't find it again later. So anyway, that's the story. There's a lot of stories about Kilkea, but probably one of the most important of the stories relates to when the papal nuncio to Ireland, a fellow called Rinuccini, a person of high controversy, but who has generated a lot of important historical manuscripts in later times. A lot of important Latin texts are inspired by him, or written at least under his influence. And anyway, he came to Kilkea. It was part of the build-up to trying to take Dublin back from the Royalists under the Confederation Kilkenny Wars. But he didn't apparently have money to pay his army, so he borrowed money from Father Robert of Kilkea, but didn't give it back. And that led to considerable bad blood between this Father Robert, the head of the Jesuits in Ireland, and the papal nuncio. And you can read about that in this contemporary Latin book that you'll see at the end of this video. It's called Supplementum Alithinologiae, which was written by Father John Lynch. It's a contemporary book. The 1670s, written in 1660s or 1670s in France. Father John Lynch was a contemporary of Father Robert in Ireland, although Father John Lynch is actually from the Tuam area. But in his Supplementum, Alithinologiae, he actually describes Father Robert at some length and his family of of Kilkea. So you can see there in just those 2 pages from Father John Lynch's book, you can see the reference to Kilkea Castle and his bad relations, if you like, with the papal nuncio. So anyway, I thought you might like to just look at this. The headquarters of the Catholic faith in Ireland in the 1620s, 1630s, 1640s. A trying time indeed. You'll see here now this book is it's not all that well known, but a very important book in Latin. Supplementum Alithinologiae, and earlier you had Alithinologiae on its own. So thank you very much anyway, and I hope you like this video.